So today we are doing conditional sentences. We have four types of conditionals as you can see on your screens. Zero conditional, first conditional, second conditional, and third conditional. So we classify these type of sentences, these conditional sentences, according to the degree of probability that they express. What probability is the extent to which something is possible. How possible it is that the condition would get fulfilled in the past, in the future, or in the present. We are going to discuss the time factor and the structures that they reflect in the coming slides. So each type of conditional sentences uses different tenses to show the difference in the degree of probability. We get to know about the intention of the speaker through the structures that they use for expressing those conditional sentences. This is the scale of probability that spots all these four type of conditionals at the two extremes and in the center and near to the one extreme. The first type is zero conditional. As you can see, it is on one of the extremes, that is definite. Definite means you are definite about the situation. You are 100% sure that the condition is going to be fulfilled. This would be zero conditional. The structure would be different from the rest of the conditionals. Then you have possible condition, that is the first conditional. First conditional reflects possible situations in the future. It has again a different structure. Then you have second conditional, that is nearest to the impossible, or the third conditional. So it is closest to impossible, but it is not completely impossible. So we call this improbable situations. Second conditionals are improbable. Then we have the third conditional, that is impossible. The last and the third conditional is called impossible as well because it is about the past that has already happened. We imagine a situation that has already happened, but we imagine a different past for ourselves, for our own satisfaction, or for the purpose of guidance. So, as we cannot go and change the past, that's why it is completely imaginary. So we have all these four types and we differentiate all these four types on the basis of its probability, that whether it is going to happen in the future or in the present or in the past, whether it is possible, whether it is improbable, or it is completely impossible. We are going to discuss the structures too in the coming slides, but for now we'll take these examples that are mentioned here. For example, in the zero conditional, the example is if you heat water, it boils. It means it is something definite. It is going to happen anyhow. We are 100% sure that this condition is going to be fulfilled because it is a natural fact. So we express natural facts in the zero conditional and we use both the present sentences. Present tense is used for both the type of clauses. The clauses we are going to discuss in the coming slides. For now, what we have to take here is the condition. That this condition is definite because it is something natural fact that is going to happen anyhow. Then we have a possible condition about which we are 90% sure that this is going to happen in the future. Then we have second conditional, that is improbable. It is if it rained tomorrow, I will stay inside. Similarly, you have impossible. If I had known, I would have told you. As you can see, it is given in complete past. It is past here, and again, it is past in the main clause as well. So we cannot go and change the past. That's why we call it impossible situation. It is completely imaginary. We imagine a different past. Conditionals are sentences with two clauses. In conditional sentences, we have two parts, which we call clauses. There are two clauses. The first one is subordinate clause, one that expresses the condition, and the other one is main clause, one that expresses the consequences or the results. So we have two clauses. The first one is called subordinate and the other one is called main clause. Main clause expresses the results or the consequences if the condition expressed in the subordinate clause gets fulfilled. The examples are here. The first one is if you work hard, you will succeed. So first part is the subordinate clause and the other part is main clause. You have expressed the condition in the subordinate clause and the results or the consequences of the condition that is going to be fulfilled would be expressed in the main clause, right? Tea tastes sweet if you add some sugar. There is the main clause, tea tastes sweet. And then if you add some sugar is a subordinate clause. As you can see that the structure is flexible. It is not a compulsion that you start your sentence with the subordinate clause and end up with main clause. Or if you can start with main clause and end up with subordinate clause too. So this is what we have discussed. The order of two clauses is flexible. It can be subordinate clause plus results or the main clause, and it can be the result comes first and then comes the condition, right? The only difference would be of the only difference between these two structures would be of the punctuation mark. As you can see in the first example, there is comma right after the subordinate clause, right? If it rains, comma, I will stay home. There is a comma here, but in the second example, I will go shopping on the way home if I have time. There is no comma or punctuation mark here. So this is the only difference. If you state your condition first and then you state your main clause or the results of that condition, you would place a comma in between. But if you state your results or the consequences first in the form of main clause, you won't place any comma afterwards. Although many conditional sentences use if, other words can also be used instead of if. Example, when, as soon as, in case. So it is not a compulsion that the subordinate clause or what we call as if clause is going to start with if only. There can other words also be used like when, as soon as, in case. Like the examples are given here, I will call you as soon as I arrive. So what does it emphasize? It emphasizes immediacy. As soon as. When I die, I will leave all my money to charity for a definite condition. When do we use when in the conditions when we are definite about the situation? Okay, let's talk about zero conditional first. As you can see, the structure is mentioned here that there are two parts of such sentences. The first one is condition and the other one is result. Condition is also called a subordinate clause and the results are expressed in the main clause. And two examples are given. If you stand in the rain, you get wet. If you heat ice, it melts. If you pay attention to the structure, both the condition and the result are expressed in the simple present tense. Simple present. If you stand in the rain, you and the first form of the verb stand, right? And you get wet, again first form of the verb. So what does it suggest? That both are simple present. Similarly, in the next example, if you heat ice, it melts. Again, first form of the verb and first form of the verb. So what does it reflect? That both the clauses would be expressed in simple present. When do we use such conditional sentences? When we have to express facts which are generally true and the natural laws. Whenever we are definite 100% sure about the situation that it is going to be fulfilled, this condition is going to happen, so we use zero conditional, and zero conditional is identified by the structure. When both the clauses are expressed in simple present, it would be zero condition. The zero conditional is also used to give instructions using the imperative in the form of clause. For example, if Ali calls you, tell him to meet me. We use such kind of sentences in our daily routine as well, when we have to give instructions, when we have to give commands. So another important use of zero conditional is in imperatives. If you want to come, call me before 5 o'clock. Meet me here if we get separated. So the examples are very common. We commonly use all such kind of sentences. These are the imperative sentences with conditions, right? Now let's discuss first conditional. Again, there would be a condition and a result. How do we express condition and how do we express results are given here. We express our condition in first conditionals with the help of simple present, and we express our results with the help of future indefinite. If it rains, we will cancel the plan. If you study, you will pass the exam. So the condition in both the sentences is expressed by using simple present tense, and the results in both the sentences are expressed in future indefinite tense. What are the uses of first conditional? A real and possible situation in the future, predicting a likely result in the future if the condition happens. So we predict that there are 90% chances for this condition to get fulfilled, right? If it rains, we'll cancel the plan. If you study, you will pass the exam. So it is a likely condition. It is going to happen. There is a possibility that this condition would get fulfilled. Okay, what are the uses? To make promises and warnings. If you forget my birthday, I'll never speak to you again. Unless is used in negative conditionals like unless we recycle more, we won't have a better world. Now we are going to compare first conditional with zero conditional. The first condition describes a particular situation, whereas a zero conditional describes what happens in general. So there is a minor difference in zero conditional and first conditional, but that is important. Examples are given. If you sit in the sun, you get burned. It's about every time a person sits in the sun. But the same sentence, if we make it in the first conditional, if you sit in the sun, you will get burned. Here it's about what will happen today. Another day might be different. So zero conditional is not specific to a situation. It is not particular. It is general. It is general about anybody in any time. If the person would sit in the sun, it is likely that the person would get burned. So it is about every time a person would sit in the sun. But if we talk about first condition, it would be specific to a person or to a situation, right? It would not be general. It would be to a particular situation that is going to happen in the future. Conditional sentences are composed of two parts. One that expresses the condition and the other that expresses the consequences or the results. We have four main type of conditionals: zero conditional, first, second, and third. Zero conditionals expresses certainty. First condition expresses possibility. Second conditionals express improbability, and the third conditionals are impossible, or we call them imaginary.